I've done this before, and usually it sees me at the top left. Oh,
Okay.
now it is. Here we go.
Now we're live?
Yes.
We're there? Hello! Hello, hello, hello!
Hello.
Hi, OAC!
Hi, guys.
Okay, I'm just doing some technical shifting here. I'm gonna close my Facebook feed there. Do I still have you guys?
Yep. And
Yep.
just got the notification that we're live.
Okay, we're ready to go. All right, so shall we just push on with the intro? Because it takes people a couple of minutes to find us and log on. So shall we just push on?
Let's do it.
You guys ready?
You're ready.
We're ready. Okay, hello, hi OAC. My name is Karen Boite, and I am a member of the Ontario Autism Coalition and a member of our board of directors. From time to time, we host Facebook Lives as an extension of the discussions on our page. We've brought you politicians and OAP experts, teachers, therapists, even union presidents. Today, I'm talking to two self-advocates, Ryan Bowes and Philip Lerner. Philip and Lerner are also fellow board members of the OAC. Hi, guys.
Hello.
So, Ryan, would you care to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ryan Bowes. I am on the board of directors for the OAC. I'm a self-advocate, currently a third-year law student at Osgoode Hall. And I'm very excited to be here tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Phil, who the heck are you?
Hi, everyone. I am Philip Lerner. I am a third-year undergrad student at the University of Waterloo, majoring in stats. And I'm also a self-advocate on the board of directors.
Lovely, thanks. So tonight, we're going to try something new. We're going to be watching a BBC documentary that's called What Is It Like to Live with Autism? Ryan and Philip have both seen this film in advance, and I doubt if we'll get through the whole film tonight. I've watched it several times, and upon reflection, I wondered about how autistic adults like Ryan and Phil might see this film as opposed to my point of view. So if Ryan and Phil feel comfortable, perhaps they'll share an anecdote or two along the way. They are both going to take control of the video and pause it from time to time to make comments. And I also may pause the video to ask our experts some questions. I have no idea what Ryan and Phil will say. I only know that they approved this film and we'll take it from there. We're not going to throw anybody under the bus here. That's not the point of this evening. The point of our discussion is to create a space for actual autistic people to share their point of view. And I'll try to keep my big fat mouth shut. All right, I'll try. You guys know, me, so let's see how that goes, right? We'll do our best to follow and respond to people's questions on Facebook as they come up. So please feel free to comment and even type in a big stop, and we'll pause the video and respond to your question if we can do it. We've got a lot of technical stuff that we're going to manage. It may not work out, so I hope you'll bear with us as we take the plunge. Yeah? Ready to start? Okay.
Let's do it. So, we already have so many people saying hello.
So many people. Good. Well, they're going to be a few seconds behind us, so that'll give me time to queue up the video. And hopefully, can you guys see the film?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to start. Well, first, I'm going to give Ryan first dibs at having control.
Yes, I do get dibs.
Here we go. The fellas are going to take turns controlling the video. I can only give one person control at a time.
I would like to know more in the future.
What don't you understand?
I understand right, but I do not understand wrong.
Hi, that was me pausing. I mean, we've already just started, but I think that's a really interesting way to start the film. And I guess this is a good opportunity, Phil, for you and I mean, is this an experience that you feel is universal in distinguishing, like, rules and boundaries? Because I have my own personal sense of right and wrong. And I think I do understand the difference between them, but I also have in my life had many, many experiences where my ideas of what was okay and what was not okay was very different from what seemed like everybody else in the room was thinking and actually sort of following and going by, right? You know, so I understand what she's saying there. And at the very beginning was saying, I can understand right, but not understand wrong. Though, you know, to different extents, obviously, everybody is different.
Yeah, for me, I've always had a pretty good understanding of a good way or a decent way of handling a situation and a not so good way of handling a situation. But yeah, sometimes my ideas of right and wrong kind of differ from the traditional point of view, so I'm going to agree with you there.
Shall we move on?
Yep.
Yeah.
John and Zach came to make a documentary about our world. We all have something called autism, and they want to know what it's like. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? You might think we're strange. You might not like us. Sometimes we get angry.
Your obsessions seem to turn into worries. Or your worries seem to turn into obsessions.
We're born like this and we'll always be different. We want to live in the real world, not the autistic world, but it's hard. This is
We pause here. Two things that were said there resonated with me. One of, you know, sort of the worries and tribulations of the world turning to obsessions, and obsessions and vice versa, becoming the trials and tribulations. I think that's something that's common among all autistic people. I mean, it's common among many people generally, just with how damning our world can be to mental health. So those things are definitely compounding. But also the second point of, you know, I want to live in the normal world, not the autistic world. And I think that's a really good sort of allusion to, you know, what accessibility means in our society. For me, I've been very lucky and very privileged to be a part of institutions that have consistently, you know, been very open about accessibility. I think I'm at the right point of history where that's, you know, becoming something that's a bit more understood and recognized. But, you know, that's mostly my adult life, right? Like when I'm a kid, a teenager, but especially being a young kid, getting those accommodations, at least when like in the early thousands, that wasn't even then really a conversation that we were having, and not something that my parents could have with the principals and vice versa. I don't know. I said a lot there. Phil, if you want to say anything.
Phil, I'm wondering,
Yeah,
what does the concept normal mean to you? What does that, that's a very tricky word for me.
Yeah.
that's a good question. It's actually kind of where I was going to go with my comments anyway.
Okay.
I was going to go kind of expand on Ryan's point where this video comes from a very binary stance where it's either autistic, not autistic. Two circles, they don't intercept at all. And I don't think that's really a reality. It's a bit of an oversimplification. There are people who have some minimal autistic traits that are not autistic. And even if they're not autistic at all, they may have their own stuff that they're going through, and it's not any easier. To answer your question, though, my definition of normal. Oh, I don't like that I'm about to say this, but I always thought that it meant non-autistic. Now that my view has kind of grown, I don't think there is a normal. I think kind of what I said before. Everyone's got their own thing, whether it's autism, whether it's something else. If there's ever a human that's ever completely normal, I'd like to meet them personally. I haven't yet.
Me too. Shall we continue?
Yeah.
Sure.
I wonder what you'll think of us. I want you to make me normal. I want you to make me
Let's
normal.
stop there for a sec. I really like what they just said there. What they're going to think of us. Because self-consciousness is something that we all go through, and I don't know if it's compounded more with autism. It might be. But we are worried about, okay, I'm going to use this oversimplified term, that other world, how we're perceived. We do have these concerns. We're not just in our own little space.
Mhm. She's if we can go back to what she's saying here, I think it's very interesting play on words. And I'll just scooch back a little bit. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll be trying to go fast, but I find this to be a very clever and interesting play on words here. Share screen. Apologies for the slow tech. That's all my fault. Go back to this young lady.
Our story.
She says, I want you to make me normal. I want to be normal, but there's a play here.
I want you to make me normal. I want you to make me normal. I want you to make me normal.
This statement hurts so much to hear.
I have to fucking kill myself. Sorry.
Yes, so
Yeah, it's something that, I mean, we were talking about earlier. I think it's something that's very, very pervasive in the experience. And obviously the experience, you know, I went to public schools all my life. You were mentioning in our, you know, talk before this live started, how in Britain there is, you know, no sort of autism program, EBA. It's, you know, you basically have these special designated schools, right? Where there's, you know, the segregation, which, you know, in Ontario, we're trying to get rid of, right? The sort of segregation, institutionalization of people with developmental disabilities. But then, you know, you also get that sort of really good care, I guess, and like attention to the accommodation needs that are needed on a daily basis, right? And the education experience. But I think, you know, no matter whether you're in Britain in that situation or in Canada where you're in a normal, see, that term is just used. It's something that's used in society. It's hard not to. That sort of feeling of alienation and just, you know, having some sort of judgment, personal judgment about this is how the situation's going, and then not having that reciprocated. You know, I always find, even today, you know, I'm in my 20s, and I find, you know, I'll talk to my parents and my partner and sort of remind them and say, you know, sometimes I'm saying things and it's just because I'm looking for deeper understanding, and it may seem like I'm just repeating you, or I'm saying something that's really obvious, you know, saying something that's you know, but really I'm just trying to find a sense of sort of that quote unquote normalcy or consistent line of like understanding, because the baseline is sort of, it feels off kilter, and I don't think that's a part of what's going on in my brain so much as it is the sort of expectations that are put on people in society, and how that doesn't align with the lived experience of people of all places of the autism spectrum, right?
should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Hi, Elena. You can't really hear, and I don't know if the captions are updating.
Okay, can't hear?
Oh,
Yeah, the
no,
audio
the captions
is...
did.
Can you
Yeah.
hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think unfortunately I've gone into a dilemma, which is that the speaker on my computer has woken up my son and upset him, and my husband put his headphones on, and I don't think that the sound of the film will work. So I'm between a rock and a hard place. So I'm gonna take
That's totally
this
okay.
off. Oh boy. Okay. And let's see. Please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you can hear. My apologies, everyone.
State schools in Britain for children with autism.
Yeah, we can hear. It doesn't have to be as loud, too loud, you know, just, you don't want to.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Up a little more by chance?
That this disability causes them this huge stress,
Beautiful.
anger,
Yeah.
and they will think of themselves as a bad person. I think they need to know that that's caused by the autism.
Why are you blackmailing me?
Autism is a condition of the mind, and it affects over 500,000 people.
Let's do a quick pause.
Yeah, always something to talk about with these.
There was one line that really hit me hard. They may think that they're a bad person. Man, there are some rumors out there that autistics were, oh, I don't like to say it, but there are some rumors that we're monsters, that we don't care about other people's feelings. And that right there, that's proof that we do care. We want people to be happy. We want people to know that we care about them. And it's not really our fault.
Yeah, I echo all that.
So it's a myth.
Well, of course, it's, everybody's human. Everybody has
Don't we seem
compassion.
nice?
Why is it that do you think that people believe you don't have compassion for others?
This for me is not a personal experience because no one has ever accused me of that. But my opinion is because we have trouble, or autistics in general have trouble reciprocating emotion and understanding emotion. And emotion is one of those things that humans generally think, oh, it's inhuman not to consider emotion. But we have trouble perceiving emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I think that's the emotion sort of I think it affects, because like, as for me, I do feel like I'm a compassionate person naturally. I think it's, again, and that's the thing, the way that autism manifests itself in every single person is so different. For me, I feel like, in communication, sure, in communicating those emotions, it doesn't mean I'm not feeling them, right? It doesn't mean that, like, and for example, the anger thing, anybody who's an autism parent knows, right? Like, anger and dealing with those emotions, autistic children feel emotion, and very greatly, actually. In fact, it's sometimes very hard to contain that emotion. It's I don't think it's about having the emotion, whether more or less just it being the expression of that emotion is just not consistent with societal norms, and sometimes with the productive day of the family or the person. And that's okay, because that's why accommodation exists, so that people of any kind, including autistic people, can sort of have their workplaces or their living spaces better accommodated to their needs, their emotional, physical, productive needs, all those kinds of needs.
So Ryan, you have control right now. You can play the
Perfect.
film anytime you want to.
Let me see if it's actually registering my. It may not. I don't think it's registering my.
All right, maybe
so
it's
that's okay,
all right.
though.
We'll just do that.
It makes these children struggle with so many things we take for granted. For them, everyday life can be endlessly confusing, and they'll often find comfort in routine, repetitive behavior, and obsessive interest.
Okay, wait. Can I pause here? I know. This is what they're saying is something that's sort of like the is it the DLSR? No, that's a camera. The medical database that has all the diagnoses, right? It's such a typical explanation of autism, and while it's true on the face, I think I think every single human finds that their life is confusing many times daily. I think that many people have hobbies and obsessive interests, and I think people exist better, whether you're autistic or not, when you have repetition and routine in their life. I do not think that these things are exclusively autistic. I think it's just the way that they manifest, and the fact that the autistic person uses these sorts of facets of human experience as a way to cope for the sort of mental and also social not disadvantages, but differences that are occurring. Then it becomes this thing where then people with autism are like, if they're autistic, they're doing repetitive stuff, they're obsessive, and aren't socially adept. And it's like, I don't think that is fair. I think it's reducing the person down to these like habits which everybody have, right? And it's not, instead looking about how autism affects a person such that these habits are expressed in the way that they are and sort of manifest in the way they are, and how that interplays with personality and, home environment. But obviously, this is a 1 hour movie, right? And they're trying to get something done. But I think that's something that's like sort of, I just wanted it to
For sure. And we're only two minutes and 38
I
seconds in.
know. We'll probably get like 10 minutes in and then we'll already be.
All right. Here we go.
Autism can take away the imagination needed to understand how others are feeling. And the constant battle with reality leads to frustration and anxiety. Autism covers a wide range of behaviours. Some of the children at Spa School rarely speak. Others show no outward signs of disability. We spent months filming with some of the more able students.
So that's an interesting way to put things. Some of the more able students.
I think we are all thinking pause right there.
I think, well, I think anybody who's watching this and has any sort of, has put any thought to it, sees that as a pretty ableist comment, and the way that it's distinguishing, even because it's saying we spent months filming some of the more able students. So that means that for all those months, they were focusing on students who they thought, okay, these, they can give us a better documentary because they can articulate themselves better, or they're more interesting than the person who doesn't have speech abilities like these other students, right? Or doesn't have the same sort of cognitive or articulate abilities, and just going, we're not going to film those guys. That's not only is this comment ableist, but just this whole practice. And somebody in the comments section said this as well. We have to pay attention to how this documentary is actually sort of perceiving and giving out this information about autistic people, because this is obviously not a documentary by autistic people. This is a documentary by able-bodied and minded people who aren't actually part of the interest group that they're documenting, which is as most of the case with BBC, right? Or not BBC, but just in documentaries in general, right? That's how things kind of go, and it's, I don't know. So I'm
going to come a little bit on the defense of the video here.
Okay.
I am not for ableism at all, but autism is such a confusing thing that it might make sense to, okay, for everyone in the audience, I'm about to use a term that's very controversial. Please do not take any offense. It might make sense to target those who are a little more high functioning, because that it's a little easier to understand. If they can articulate themselves a little bit.
Well, I think, and that's the thing, right? If these are people who are not, you don't want to get into the case where you're filming, not people who can't speak, right? And then
you wouldn't really get much from it.
Well, not that you get from it, but you have such the ability to misinterpret their thoughts, feelings about the subject at hand, about even consent, their capacity to give consent there. That's just, there's so many issues there, both of a legal and moral, ethical standpoint, where I can totally understand why they did this, but I think even just the comment of more able, that's something to point out and say, why are they saying it like that, right?
Yeah.
The wording was absolutely horrid.
Okay. Moving on?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's actually watch a little bit more so we get some context.
Yeah.
We could have imagined.
The real world is much better than the autistic world. It's got trees, estate agents, shops.
I can imagine this is about the sort of boarding school style,
job centers,
right? Such that there truly is a segregated autistic world and real world outside of the one that exists sort of socially.
He hates his disability and tries to deny it. Why are you at Spa?
It's because they made a mistake.
In fact, Mania has a form of autism called Asperger's syndrome. Children with this form of autism seem less severely affected because they have more normal speech and are often above average intelligence.
My ambition for the future, I want to go to Oxford, and then I want to, be an astronaut, the first person on Mars, and
I love his ambition.
be an Egyptologist.
Mania's autism can cause outbursts of anger and frustration.
Reminds me when I was younger, I wanted to be a paleontologist and an astronaut.
His behaviour is more challenging.
I want to be a meteorologist.
Nice.
I'm here on the 12th of September. Refused to comply, unsafe and disruptive behaviour, hitting self, damaging property.
You're not wrong with it. You know how to do it.
And refusing to work, beginning to upset others, tearing up the work of others. Damage the property through the radio to the floor, throwing the kettle. That was here, throwing the kettle through my computer. Tearing up plants, destroying trees.
Can I say shout out to all the staff here who like get essentially beat up? Like,
Yeah, that's what happens. Actually, I'm gonna pause. Can we pause?
Yep.
So we can talk about that.
Yep.
I think it's interesting seeing, the way that guy was holding the child, though, despite, the fact that he was being hit. I think, whether or not that was the best way to be holding a child with their head facing the floor.
I'll agree with you there. I'll agree with you there.
But I think back to when I was in first grade, and I think of this classic story. Maybe not classic for the people who it affected, but classic story in my life where I was just, I could not pay attention, right? Because I have Asperger's ADHD, so sort of compounding there, and I could not pay attention, cannot focus, just wanted to sing and, look outside. And anyways, it was disruptive in class. And the teacher who, was at the end of her tenure, at the end of her sort of teaching career, would put sticks in a cup, right? Every time I talked out or whatever, and I'd get like a punishment for an amount of sticks that were in there. And it just got so bad once that I remember I just threw all the sticks on the ground because I was so fed up from just I felt like unfairly targeted, right? But what was actually happening was I was just not understanding the social cues of what I needed to be doing that everybody else was doing. But that's not sort of my fault. I wasn't also being accommodated. I was being punished at every instance instead of being guided along sort of the proper ways and the ways that I could sort of be effective in like being a part of the classroom. I wasn't offered that. So, just threw sticks on the ground, and then the teacher left. I went to the principal's office, got like a screaming from this British principal. God bless her, Miss Johnson. She is the very best, but very scary as well, as any principal is. And the next day, the teacher was no longer working there. And she had quit. She was like, I'm done with these students. I'm done. I'm past my limit. And we got a new teacher the next week, like a 20-year-old lady named Miss Berger. And so it's I can definitely empathize there with what's happening with the student, with the teacher. And even, again, I have Asperger's, which is on a different side of the autism spectrum than, but it's all the same spectrum. These things affect everybody with autism in different ways, but and not universally, but also not sort of in these little boxes, right? We sort of have little snippets of each of these experiences, which is why we can't even get through the first 5 minutes, because while our experience may be different, we still feel something about it, that's relevant.
Phil, did you have experiences of losing your temper at school?
For me, it happened a little bit more when I was actually a little older, around grade 7 and 8.
Uh-huh.
Was I completely out of control? No, but I got really angry and really upset and need to be taken out of the mainstream classroom for a long while.
Mm-hmm. When you first had those feelings of being upset, how long did it take before you couldn't manage yourself any longer? Were you white knuckling for a long time, or how long did it take?
I'm not 100% sure. It kind of depends.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'd kind of postpone the reaction until I got to the community class. That's where I felt safe to kind of let it out.
I see. So there was a lucky recipient of your frustration?
No, my frustration was not violence. Mine was crying.
Crying. Yeah. Yeah, my son is that way too. He cries. Yeah.
And
See,
I wanted to pause here because we can critique teachers for how they hold students. Absolutely. But I just wanted to shout out for what they go through. Like, I know it's not our fault, but it's still tough to be hit all day.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay, sorry, go ahead. I want to continue
Yeah.
this conversation.
yeah, but they go through a lot for us. So, all of the teachers out there, thank you.
Let's see what Minnie has to say here.
Sure.
I'm gonna wipe my legs on the other place. I'm actually having you loaded it. Okay, that's possible because some people think I've got Asperger's. Okay, that's possible I've got Asperger's.
Roy's 18 and in his last year at school. Like many people with autism, he has an obsessive interest in one subject. For Roy, it's EastEnders, especially Vicky Fowler.
Grammarly can help
Oh.
you write quickly and confidently.
Ooh.
Sorry about
There we
that.
go.
Stay on top of email.
Can I say just to for the point earlier when you were saying do you white knuckle it? I think I want to say something like that because I do want to acknowledge so many autistic people. I mean, think Phil in our personal conversations with the other self-advocates on the board, how much we talk about the amount of white knuckling we have to do in our daily lives, right? And you know, which like give credit, like you know, autistic people aren't just they're just mad and then you're like these guys can't figure out their anger, how they're doing. It usually is coming from like a full day of sensory overload, of you know, of people not understanding us, you know, for me.
or even worse, worrying about what people think of us.
Or we're worrying about exactly like how we're even being perceived. For me, you know, there was usually recipients of my anger. It's usually my parents, right? For in my case, you know, I'd get home and I'd be so tired from school, and then there'd be some comment that was thrown which way, right? And then it would just always turn into, you know, shouting matches or whatever. And
I've
you know,
heard the
my
term
parents,
masking used a lot.
yeah,
Oh boy.
yeah.
What's that?
Phil, do
All
you want to speak,
masking?
or?
masking is where we're acting in a way that's not completely ourselves. We're acting, okay, put it simply, we're trying to act neurotypical to fit in.
Yeah.
So when I hear that, I'm like, but you know, I mask too. I pretend to like people I don't like. I pretend to listen to people who are boring and I'm not interested in what they have to say. So what's the difference between me trying to be a nice lady and keep my job because I hate my boss and I'm never going to let him know, you know, and an autistic person masking? What's the difference? Because we all play act through life, you know?
Mhm.
So what's the difference?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure what the difference is, honestly. Maybe.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's interesting you asked this of two people on the autism spectrum because it's like, well, gosh, I don't know what our entire experience is trying to figure out what you're going through. You think I can compare? But,
Yep.
but you know, and I think that's it. I think, you know, obviously, like I have the ability to play act and sort of, you know, fulfill roles as needed, right? Like I could fulfill the role as a student and listen, or I could fulfill the role as an advocate and do a speech, right? We're all playing different roles at all the times in our life. But I think there's, in terms of masking, I think it's really referencing the specific situations, what basically those situations where it is sort of becomes abundantly clear for the person who needs to mask that the experience around them and what they have to convey is not something that is them, you know, conveying themselves in a certain role, but rather trying to convey themselves just so they can survive that interaction or that thing, right? Like, you know, sort of be in this space in a way that they won't be socially outcasted, rather than just, you know, make their boss like them, but truly so that they're in a space where, you know, it seems like things are making sense, even though that process is actually really hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense in terms of the distinguishing that?
It does, but I think it could be semantics, you know. I mean, Shakespeare said
sure.
we're merely players, you know, and
sure.
and we're all playing on a stage. But I think that is something that is hard for neurotypical people to understand.
I think I've got a way to explain this, actually.
Okay.
I don't think there is a select difference. I think that we come up with terms, or terms are come up for us to try to actually try to relate what we go through to neurotypicals. So masking is not different. It's just a term that's used for us so neurotypicals can understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it does.
It's so hard to describe. It's just like my experience. Like it's different than the normal social awareness that neurotypical people have, and it's one that when I talk to autistic people I share, and then when I talk to neurotypical people, there's some similarities, right? As you say, everybody plays a role, but like just that feeling isn't the same.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to talk about it other than experiencing it and just sort of being that young boy up to, you know, how old I am now, and just you know, for me, we were 40 minutes in, but I didn't learn about my diagnosis until I was 16. You know, I didn't actually know, like, and I only found out because I was doing a project on it. My parents like, oh, did you know you're diagnosed with this? And I was like, what the heck? I wish I knew this earlier. Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me?
Well, I wasn't mad about it.
They brought it up like that?
Yeah, over like a casual
so casually
conversation. Yeah. I was like, this is not casual for me. This explains so much. I've always been so confused about why my experience has seemed so different. Felt so alienated so much of the time of my life, even though like I'm a very compassionate, like enthusiastic kid, you know, and you know, I think very intelligent. So it was very interesting. So yeah, I you know, you're right, Philip. It's just terms and stuff. No matter what, we're going to be experiencing what we experience. So as long as people listen, that's the least that can happen.
So what about you, Phil? When were you aware of the term autism and that it applied to you in some way?
I'm going to say 5 or 6 because I was diagnosed at 2.
Okay.
And I think
how did that happen? How did that unfold for you?
I started school in a fully mainstream program. I wasn't doing great there. So when I transitioned to a new school, I'm the type of person where I have to know why, even at age 5, 6. I don't just bend down to authority and say, okay, sure. I say, why am I transferring to a new school? And my parents didn't want to lie to me. They said, they probably said, you have autism. I don't know how they said it. I don't have a recollection of that. But that's where I think it happened.
Okay.
They started telling people around the age of 15, 16.
Should we push on?
Yeah.
Yeah. See if we can get 10 minutes in.
It's okay.
Come on, guys. 4
Not
minutes
about
of quiet. We
finishing
can
the
do
film.
it.
Not about finishing the film.
23rd January 2003, on a Thursday at 7:57 at the time. Oh, remember exactly what she was doing.
He's talking about a lady from EastEnders. He's a big fan.
She had it in her hand and she went, hello.
Roy can talk about EastEnders for hours. He's memorised the birthdays of every actor and of the character they play. We wondered if he realised that he's strange.
I think I'm a little different.
In what way?
The way I say things or talk about things, like I talk about each other for too long, people might think I'm giving myself away. I'm a bit strange or unusual to someone else because I'm talking about it for so long that they think there should be a little break and talk about something different. I think that's right.
That's so funny. I'm gonna throw my partner in the bus quickly because, you know, I'll have obsessions over things, which again, I'm recognizing that's a part of the autistic experience. I don't think it makes me stereotypically such, more so than I right. Okay, out of the way. But yeah, and lately I've been getting some derision for that, because it usually comes up in times when everything else in my life is very stressful, right? Those sort of things help offer a good escape, whether or not they're conducive to what I'm trying to do. Sort of irrelevant, because sometimes my mind and I think somebody who doesn't have autism can feel this as well. Sometimes you really just need a break. And so, and sometimes I have to remind and say, this is kind of how I operate here. I can't really deal with this any other way, right? Let me talk about my obsession. I know you've heard about this for the 55th time today. I'm so sorry, but I just really need to talk about this right now. I need to. So yeah, I feel that.
I do as well. When I have some sort of concern, I need to verbalize it
Yeah.
a lot, because it won't get out of my head until I'm finally satisfied. It will keep repeating,
Right?
repeat. And I'm going to do something a little bit brave here. I'm going to try to delve into the mind of a neurotypical and just take a guess. Karen, please tell me if I'm right or wrong on this.
I'll try.
I think me and Ryan might be in a harder situation than some other autistics in a way. Because when people see us, autism is not the first thing they see unless they already know. So, like at a job interview, which we're both having in the next couple weeks, if we start doing our autistic stuff, they're going to think, what is this guy doing? But for someone who might be more autistic, don't know another way to say it, I'm sorry.
It's hard to find the right words.
Yeah, it's hard to find
the right words. I know.
They might be able to know, okay, we can expect that something is going to go wrong and we're not going to hold it against them. They might hold it against us, though.
Yeah. I and that's what's great about, there's certain rights that people have when they're, going to get an interview, right? You can't be discriminated against because of disability, and that's why you're allowed to get accommodations and stuff, right? But it's, I think it's interesting because we're watching this film and, people might be coming in saying, oh, these two kids have autism. What are you talking about? They don't look They don't look like some of the kids in this
You
movie.
do a little stim
where,
Phil?
Right? Yeah, where you have the physical aspects of autism also playing heavily into that person's sort of experience. In terms of my physical sort of embodiment, nobody would really know I'm autistic unless they saw me walk, right? And then when you see me walk, that's when a lot of people see, oh wow, you're bouncing a lot, you're walking on your tippy toes, you are not walking normal. And then sort of, some people understand that.
They think autism, or they just think there's something unique about this guy?
And that's back in high school. Some people like Laura, right, sort of clued in very well. She was the first person outside of my family that I ever actually disclosed to, and because she was the only one I trusted to be like, how do I navigate this? When I found out. Right. But I like in ninth grade, I tried to audition for the musical and I got in, but then I was made to do I was made to spend in lunches with the dance teacher at Cawthra Park so that they could teach me how to walk properly. And it was never discussed that this was because of my autism, just that we need you to walk properly on stage if you're going to be an actor at the school for 4 years.
And you weren't self-aware of
and at that time I wasn't at that time I was 14, so I didn't actually even know yet. I just had lived my entire life walking like this, super weird. And even today I have to walk like a dolphin breathes. Like I have to think about it, or else I'll go right back into it.
Is that another
very funny
example of masking, even trying to control your walk?
Oh, totally. I mean, totally.
Wow.
Right?
I don't even think about this type of stuff, but yeah.
Well, I had an experience when my son was very young. We went to Santa's Village up in Bracebridge, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was an autism day. So families got a discount or something like that.
It's autism.
We were in the parking lot, and this lady approached me and said, "Oh, are you with our group?" And I was like, "What?" And she just sort of pointed at my son and was like, "Well, you're clearly one of us," and I was just floored. I didn't know at the time what she saw, or I was just completely floored. He's only 4 years old at the time. All right, shall we push on? There's something coming up about ritualistic behaviors that I think is kind of interesting.
There's one more thing I want to ask.
Yeah,
First.
go Phil.
Ryan, how many times, if you can count, have you? Oh wait, you're autistic. How many?
How many times can I count? I mean, I don't really know, because the people I've talked to haven't ever reacted like, oh my gosh, just sort of sometimes nods, being like, I figured. To people who like knew me for a bit and was like, that makes sense. And then others are just like, cool, okay, I love and respect you anyways. Let's keep talking about whatever we're talking about, right? It's nice that millennials typically are pretty inclusive. So I've tried to surround myself with as many good people as possible.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. For me, I've had the experience plenty of times I cannot count it, but not in a bad way.
Does that offend you when someone asks, or someone's surprised?
Actually, it kind of compliments me. It shows how far I've come.
Well, that's the thing. It compliments you, but that's the thing. Being autistic isn't a bad thing. And for me, when you said compliment, I laughed because I was thinking, because for me, I'm finding my Asperger's to be a strength, and what it sort of offers me in my ability to obsess over things. Some of the things I obsess over are really incredible things that have made my life much more colorful and fruitful for myself, right? Sorry, go ahead.
For me, I've always seen it as a negative, because I've always seen the need for extra support, for a need for extra help. I've been through the whole school system with autism. I've been in community.
Yeah. That's what's so interesting. Sorry.
Extra help.
Let's circle back to that. Should we move on?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, there's some good stuff coming up.
We can make a movie with just us.
You could.
Us talking.
Let's do it.
Roxanne's 13. She's interested in clothes, music, and magazines.
Me too.
What she really wants is a friend. But Roxanne's autism makes friendship very difficult. Her behaviour is often inappropriate.
Sorry.
She finds everyday life confusing and threatening. And she came to Spa School with a history of attacking staff and harming herself.
You know what autism is?
Yes.
Can you help me to cope with autism?
Yes.
How?
I don't want to be hurt.
No.
What nice is it? Don't throw it because it's dangerous.
That's a pretty
Although Roxanne wants to be filmed, she finds it very difficult.
Come with me.
That's for you.
That's for us.
boy. A lot to be discussed there.
Thanks, Roxanne. Well, Phil, do you want to go first? If you have anything, I don't know much to say. I mean, her experience just, seems like it's a hard time, and I wonder what sort of accommodation she's getting.
It's so interesting that I like the line where it was like, she wants to be filmed, but she has so much trouble with it. A lot of times, if we're resisting something, it looks like we don't want it. That's not the case. I don't fully understand this myself. I'm not a psychology expert. But it's just so interesting to see that we want something, but yet we have so much trouble with it.
Well, she asked the teacher or the therapist, can you help me cope with my autism? And the teacher says yes.
It's a powerful statement. Can you help me?
She's very powerful, this young woman, this young lady. Yeah.
I'm impressed with how aware she is, but I don't think it's a good thing. That's one thing after watching this film, we're going to see later that in meetings, they're constantly talking about autism as a problem.
That's what I hope we can get to before we shut off for the night. Okay, I'll move on then.
Yeah.
Roy wants to talk to us about his videos of EastEnders. Recently, he started to destroy his collection because they're not perfectly labelled. To help us understand this obsessive behaviour, Roy said we could watch him labelling his tapes. What happens if you don't label the tape in the way that you want?
I get angry with the literally and I dump it and I break, snap it in half and I put it in the bin and it stresses me out. Right. Nothing. Do you think that's wrong or bad? Do you think I've done it right like that? Do it all capital letters and none small? I think it's fine. And is the A clear? Does it look like nails? It look like a sign cut. The second letter.
That looks like an A.
Nothing doesn't look like anything else but an A.
I think so.
Yeah. When you say you think so, that means definitely. I'm a little bit worried now because I think I've done wrong by putting it there. It's more over the overlapped a bit, and I want it to be a bit like there maybe. Oh no! Oh, I've done it! Oh, I've done it again!
I'm so sorry, dude.
That's tape finished now.
Yeah, I know. I feel this pain.
So
Actually, this is kind of interesting for me.
this is
because-
fascinating, this whole scene.
Yeah, for me, I love this scene.
Me too.
I have something similar on a very small degree, and honestly, I didn't even realize it until I watched this.
Hmm.
I like symmetry. I like it when there's kind of the same thing on each side. So yeah, when I saw that label, I was like, yeah, it is off to one side a bit. That it bothered me a bit.
Mhm.
I can see it.
Now, you know, if I was this guy's mom, I would be so worried because if he's spending all of his time, right, getting the tape and opening it carefully and having to label it perfectly and then recording the show, and you know, this would take all day. And
I get it.
where is he going to have time to do his school, play soccer, date a girl, eat French fries? You know, like, you know,
There's
all
different
of these
priorities.
things. Yeah, different priorities, but you know, it's the thing that as a parent, it's kind of soul destroying to see your kid lost in what you perceive as a void, you know, of this cycle. And I kind of thought maybe he got his rocks off ripping it a little bit, like, oh no, I got to do it again now, ha ha, you know, because he loves it so. I don't know. What do you think about?
For me, I was able to cut it. If it wasn't perfectly perfect, I was like, okay, screw it. But I tried for a bit,
I
and
think
my mind's also a little bit stuck on French fries. So
But what if this gets in the way of everything, of being
Well-
able to go to school, of being able to go to college, or
I haven't had that experience, so I can't speak for it.
okay.
Yeah, and I obviously his experience is different from ours, but I think, I think that it's sort of that thing where you sort of have to just put faith in the person with autism, especially, however old he is. He looks kind of like, what, God, like
He's 18. He's just about to
he's
graduate.
18, right? Okay, yeah.
2 years
He's like
younger than
18, so
me.
he's just becoming an adult, and I feel like once he hits his like 20s, like me and Philip, I think it'll be a bit even, he'll grow into it a bit more to understand how to, figure out his time more. But I don't think it's something that is, I don't think it's something to be soul destroying for either himself or the family, because I think, those are things that he needs. I know when I need to go through, to have things work out the way I do, because a part of that for him, I can imagine, is, doing the tapes in a certain way is not just a sort of OCD thing, which even in of itself is a pretty important thing to recognize and not dismiss,
Mhm.
but is a way of just, this is how the understanding works, right? My understanding of the world in front of me and sort of whatever this media or device or just this situation, is being compartmentalized in my brain. So if me putting the label on in this certain way is the only way that is this whole sort of expenditure is going to make sense and right have that sort of full closure, then that's the way it's going to be. And you know what? And I think there's value in that. The value in at least closing that circle of knowing, okay, this is how I want things and I'm going to execute them in that way. That is a good skill to have, you know?
Well, we certainly want our heart surgeons to do things a certain way, don't we?
That is for sure.
Yeah.
I got one more point to make on this.
Yeah.
Just because adaptability is seen as a weakness in general for those on the spectrum. And man, I get that. But when it comes to certain things, we are so adaptable. And I think masking is the perfect example of it. Maybe not a positive example, but it's an example where we can.
There's a lot going on.
Situations.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. We can.
Yeah.
Ready to move on?
Let's do it.
So people should feel free to comment. I'm not seeing any comments. It's okay. You can.
I see a few here. I see one from 4 minutes ago. Deanna saying she watched a movie last night. Yeah.
They're just soaking in our wisdom.
Yes. I know there's like at least 10 viewers or something.
Far school have autism. It affects their behaviour in different ways.
Thank you.
In many cases, inability to understand other people's points of view leads to frustration and bad behaviour. I think you can answer yourself, didn't I? Okay, we're going to talk again.
Yeah, what are personal boundaries? I wish I knew.
Me too.
But Mania has more to contend with.
Personal space was one of the things I was told. Personal space, personal space, personal space.
Yeah, but you learn, right?
He's been used to mum going in and out of hospital. And he's used to her recovering and coming home. So he thought that would be the case. He thought she would recover and she would come home. Of course, I thought she was going to come out of hospital, but suppose nobody lives forever. 51, as a matter of fact. As I said before, I'm only 12. But, as I said, life must go on, and I'm sure she wouldn't want me to be miserable all my life, so I won't be. I can't imagine.
Quite strong of that kid.
Wow.
He would be incredibly muddled. He's disadvantaged instantly because he can't empathize. He doesn't have the flexibility of thought to understand what other people will be feeling.
Okay. So this boy's lost his mom, and the headmaster has said he can't empathize.
Yeah, I'm glad we got this far. You think this kid is not going through like some intense trauma? The fact that his mother just passed away, and maybe the headmaster's perception of him not being to empathize is in fact just her misinterpreting the trauma that he's going through, and the fact that he's probably having all these feelings inside, doesn't know how to express them, doesn't know how to ask for compassion or empathy himself, right? So it's not being expressed in the ways that, you know, this headmaster would think would constitute empathy. But that kid is definitely going through a lot, definitely understands that his mother died and what that means. And the fact that he sort of internalized it and is able to, you know, move on from it in a way, not move on from it, but the ability to have that interview and say, you know, well, I guess this is how life is. I don't think that means he's not empathizing with the situation and the fact that he's not feeling things. It's just, you know, sometimes when we have such incredible loss, we sort of compartmentalize it away and sort of not deal with it as it actually is. And I bet it doesn't help when, as a 12-year-old, your headmaster, right, like your school people at your boarding school aren't really giving you that sort of a permission to like feel what you're feeling. So you feel grief, you don't know how to process it, so you don't express it, and then nobody's giving you an opportunity to express it. So maybe then you just think, I guess it'll be okay. I guess life will just go on. And yet you're not given any ability to actually talk about it. That's what I see.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I didn't quite see that.
Maybe I'm just reading so into it, right? Because I'm thinking about my own experience with loss, right? But my experience is not universal.
That's okay. I've asked you to just share your thoughts as we go along, right?
Yeah.
And
what I see is totally different.
tell us, Phil.
But I see empathy in him. I saw it.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else
Yeah.
caught up with this, but he literally said, "My mom would want me to go on." Isn't empathy for what he thinks his mom would be feeling? Is that not empathy in the literal definition?
Textbook. Yeah, that's the thing. Of course he's feeling
I
empathy.
also think that we're being a little hard on the headmaster here because you see she was trying. Like you can feel free to talk. You can see she's trying. Like she's not gonna be able to understand our brains fully. No one is.
Yeah.
Let's see what else happens.
Effort.
Let's
Well,
move
they're
on.
definitely trying if they work here, right? They have to. They have to try a little bit.
Yeah.
They are. They're putting in the efforts.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I like when people try.
We definitely don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It's
and that's not what's
I
happening.
think what it's the language that people are choosing to use and
The
their
language is the tough part.
Of their students, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. Bruce can't empathize is horrible kind of bullshit, of course.
I'll just one more item, and I think
Ad coming up.
Oh,
let's go. We do not endorse this. The OAC does not care about whatever they're selling to you.
So, indeed, I have completed the 60%.
For people with autism,
I love it. Lego in school.
Safe place they can retreat to.
Lego Star Wars, let's go, right? That's
Star Wars. Star Wars.
Yes.
A perfect and successful flight.
The Falcon.
Let's
go.
How Munir's feeling. All he talks about is Star Wars. He's struggling.
This sounds like me as a kid. Holy God.
I like this scene.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had this sort of
Star Wars has just been released. And the actor who played the robot C-3PO is signing copies.
Oh, Anthony Daniels.
Yeah.
My name is Monia, and I'm your number one
dream.
You're my number one big. I thought I was my number one biggest.
And also, I'm the biggest Muslim because I know a lot.
Do you?
A lot. What's it like when you're on the back of Chewbacca?
So, which is your favourite film?
Oh, I think it would be the last one. It's quite interesting with the Return of the Jedi. Well, Jabba the Hutt gets killed, and also Han Solo gets freed. Quite very good. And the one thing I must admit is
If I was someone else in line, I would probably be getting
Oh
a
my
little bit
God!
pissed. I'm
Where's
not gonna
the
lie.
auth switch?
Good.
Anthony Daniels.
Enjoy the DVD.
cool blaster, mate.
He's so exasperated. He's pushing the kid away. That's so hilarious, but also bad. I could imagine being the kid and just being so happy that I was being touched by Anthony Daniels, even though Anthony Daniels is actually just going, "Holy crap, I'm getting annoyed."
Well, he did ask, does he have an off switch?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a mean thing to ask.
He's got a line of people coming, and the poor little guy, is so enthusiastic. And for me, these are kind of my worst nightmare moments when someone has been what I consider unkind to my son, and so far I think he's unaware. But I would walk out of there livid, from that kind of.
I mean, it's interesting because you have this as sort of a celebrity situation where they push away people.
Sure, but he's working. He's working.
But he's a kid. Yeah, he's working, and also this is a kid, right? You see celebrities who are able to treat kids differently, and with the compassion and the attention that's required at that moment, such that if the kid is going on and on, like they know how to deal with it. And Anthony Daniels obviously didn't. Yeah, right, exactly. Where you give them the attention for that moment, so that when you say it's time to move along, the kid isn't going, "What? I feel like I'm not being respected," And at the end of the day, it's what you want.
But I'm gonna put another point here. We're talking a lot about the perspective of the autistic individual, but how about the perspective of everyone else in line?
Yeah,
sure. I'm getting pretty upset.
Yeah,
well, that's Anthony Daniels. That's what he's thinking, right? He's like, I want more signatures that people can buy for me.
Yeah. And we
Also,
don't
not
know
only
how
that,
long he
but
was there. Like these films
For
are
sure.
edited. He could have been holding the line for a long time. We don't know.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll move on.
Exactly.
nice,
That's so funny though. What an interesting little interlude there.
nice mask.
I have no friends around my area hardly. Only one person that talks to me now and again. That says, hello, how are you? How are you? Hello, how are you? Hi Esther, how are you? Only one friend, that's all I have. Why are you playing on your own?
Pause. I got something.
Why are you playing on your own?
Pause it.
Yeah, this is a perfect point. First off, I love how the intuition of her knowing who's a friend and who isn't. That's something that is challenging.
Mm.
But then I'm also gonna say how aware she is. Like, why are you playing on your own? Why are you playing on your own?
Is she quoting her parents, you think, or quoting other people?
I'm gonna guess.
Probably hears it from everyone. From every.
I'm gonna guess that's her parents mainly.
Yeah.
It's the parents who are often encouraging their kids to go play with other kids. It's common. It's normal. Oh man.
Yeah, when I was younger, when I was a kid, I found it very hard to have friends. I had one friend who was a male who I really got along with. He was my best friend, Bijan. And then, I mostly either played with the girls doing like make believe because I love that instead
So
of
did
playing
I.
sports, or I just wasn't being played with and I was on my own, like playing with a car, like looking at the leaves and just examining the area because I didn't really want to play sports and the girls were doing their girl thing. So I was sort of,
Dude,
left
that
out
was
of
me
that.
as well.
Yeah,
That was so me.
of course.
I was not a sports person.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you want to play with the other boys, or you weren't interested in what they were doing?
It was a little bit of both, where sometimes I want to play, but I wasn't like invited to, like I wasn't accepted into that sort of social gathering of what was going on, or maybe I perceived that I wasn't accepted. Those lines are kind of blurred for the autistic person, right? Whether or not, and we aren't given the skills off the bat to know how to ask. That's for sure. And
I would
other times where
agree.
it was like I didn't want to play sports because I don't like sports and I'd rather look at the leaves, but that's the sort of alienating thing to want to do.
I would agree. I've never been a huge sports guy, but I like being included with the guys. Like I can see that. So it often
Everybody likes being included.
And that's also why whenever I did play sports and I made a mistake, I got so down about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Put
That's
huge pressure
why
on ourselves.
gym class was I dropped it as soon as I could.
As soon as you could. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go for another 20 minutes, guys.
Sure.
Oh, they took the mick out of me.
For once, Roxanne's keen to be filmed. She wants to introduce us to her new friend, Liam, one of the boys in her class. But Roxanne's friendships are volatile.
She doesn't understand what's at the very heart of relationship making, and that's because of her autism. So she doesn't know how to start off a conversation, how to continue a conversation, how to give, how to take. And yet she wants to. She so wants to be a normal adolescent girl, and that's hard enough, every moment, without adding autism.
A couple of days later, Roxanne sent to Jude's office after attacking Simon, one of the teaching assistants in her class.
When you started at the school, you had some bad times. You hurt some staff quite badly, and then you just stopped because you began to feel comfortable that we would always love you, always work with you, and we do, don't we? Tell me why you're close to Simon. Because I thought you were stealing my friend away. Why do you feel that? Because he was telling Liam to sit down with me. Right. Okay. Roxanne, he's not trying to make a friendship with you. He's working with him, helping him. So there, we have a start, you're the student. So when Simon wants to work and help Liam, he's not trying to take away your friendship. Be sure, I'm quite sure, I'm absolutely sure. You may not be able to understand that very well because of your autism. That's
Okay, so this is why I wanted to show you guys this film, this particular moment. I have, with therapists, worked things through with my son in terms of writing out, okay, here's this person and they're responsible for this, and here's this person. I think that's very valuable. You know, you can break things down. But now we have an instructor, a teacher, saying, you're acting like this because of your autism. So how can she help that then?
Well,
How can she
think,
make sense of that?
yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
just
that's
let
the
her
thing.
let's let the teacher finish. I'm sorry, but
Sure.
this was the moment, you know,
Yeah.
for me, that I
There
think
was a few of these.
yeah, there's a few of them, and they really gave me pause.
the problem.
That's the
That's
problem.
why you have this problem at the moment, because you're not understanding that well.
So didn't she just tell the kid then it's inevitable, you'll never solve this riddle?
Well, I mean, she didn't.
Time given.
Autistic, she can't stop the autism.
Yeah, it depends on how, you know, how Roxanne is interpreting it, right? Because it's, you know, she could be saying this is happening because of your autism. Here are ways that we can accommodate that. Here are ways that, but you know, how do you accommodate that? Do you say, okay, so now this teacher is not, or the teaching assistant is not going to work with the student? Like, is that what you do? Or is it that, you know, because if you just leave it at that, yeah, it could come off kind of demeaning, where it's like, this is just, you're not understanding this. I don't know, we don't have the full picture, because if she's saying you're not going to understand this because of your autism, if that's what she's saying, you're just not going to understand this, then yeah, that's a dead end. And that's you don't give dead ends to kids, you know,
Well,
no matter if they have autism or
the
not.
instructor is talking to a child, right?
Yeah.
And so the child is children have lots of ways of interpreting what adults say. So if your behavior is because of your autism,
Yeah.
and you will always be autistic, then how can you help yourself?
Right. It's sort of go ahead, Phil.
Thanks. I don't see it as a dead end myself. I actually I see it as a positive and a negative statement. On the positive side, they're not blaming the kid for just being rude. They're understanding that there's something else going on, at least on a basic level. On a negative, the constant labeling, that's what gets me. Like, you keep on being reminded, I have autism, I have a problem, I have autism, I have a problem. That's why I think some of these kids feel like they need to be fixed. That's me the problem.
Yeah, when you make autism this sort of, I mean, you see it for adults with autism, where autism gets criminalized on daily basis across Canada. You know, it's this sort of idea that this bad behavior is an autistic trait, right? Whereas, no, the sort of thing that came from the autism was the how that perception of that sort of relationship interaction happened, and sort of the physical outcomes of that. Just because she expressed herself physically doesn't mean that she's sort of a bad person, that her, you know, I'm sort of going in circles here, but it really, it's you say it like this, and if you're not careful with it, it becomes the autism part of you is the bad part, right? And you need to learn how to rein that in, rather than saying some of these things are happening because you're and your autism is probably contributing to that. Let's figure out ways that we can make this easier for you, right? Because at the end of the day, this headmaster should be looking out for the best interests of the children as well as her staff, right? But I think in giving personal autonomy to autistic kids as early as possible, and asking them and saying, your autism probably contributed to that, but that doesn't mean that you're bad or your autism is bad. What do you need in this situation in order to help either understand it better, to better reconcile it, right? However, the terminology you use with the child. But I think the headmaster is almost there,
Okay.
right?
She's
She's
almost
really, almost
Right.
got it.
Let's move on.
It's
Doom, 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 doom. Darth Vader. Love it. Thank you, Deanna, for saying
My mum's
your
cushion.
comments.
Your mum's cushion. Yeah. One that she slept. The one that she always slept with, and I shall never sleep with it without it under my head. So.
You don't think you need to cry at school, it's okay.
Really?
Of course it is.
that I like.
You may not want to do it in front of the other children because they'd be silly, wouldn't they?
Hmm.
Do you like to have a hug when you cry or not?
Well, I just like my mum's cushion. It's quite a weird cushion, so I've got like arms, so I had that.
She's asking. That's good.
I'm sure that helps.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I like to be treated like a child, Vivian. I'm not a child, I'm an adult, Vivian.
Are you too?
Vivian, I'm an adult. That's what I believe. In my mind, I'm an adult. That's what I am. I don't like being called a child. It offends me. It offends me being called a child. It offends me badly.
In a few months, Roy will leave school and the protection that SPA offers.
If you're under 18, you're a child.
That's coming up.
16, 17, still a child.
Oh!
Yeah, I see that one comment. What the heck was that?
Ew!
I'm sorry. I tried to warn you guys.
18 is not a big kid. 18 is an adult. 16, you're an adult for something. She can smoke at 16. But it's an adult for smoking, but not an adult for drinking. Beer.
People with autism rely on
Gets it.
rewarding
Gets it.
Yeah, he's getting quite
Yeah,
upset
Roy
about
Becker
the
to help
whole
them deal with
adult
unpredictable
Yeah.
definition, right?
Changes are difficult, and it's amazing to see the effect of even a small change.
Oh.
No, what's it doing there? It's new. I put free trouble there, Vivian.
A new bus route has started, and it's enough to throw him completely off balance.
What's the big trouble doing there? There's no P12. Fuck's sake, man. It's a P13, not P12. Supposed to be. Oh, fuck you. Fuck off. You bitch. Fuck off.
It's a good part.
Oh.
You're right when you were saying some of this wouldn't be suitable for children. No, it's I don't have much else to say other than
Okay, moving
routine
on.
helps. No,
We're
It's
at
just a tough
10:21.
situation.
We're at 10:21. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes, and we've only gone 19 minutes into the film, which is fine.
amazing.
Yeah, we could play a little bit more of it. I'm seeing comments along the way, but I haven't seen a question,
Hmm.
and that's quite all right. This is an experiment. We thought, why not watch a film together and have a chat, rather than a formal interview or me asking the public to ask you a bunch of personal and embarrassing questions. And I just thought, well, let's have a Facebook Live with some material, and we can act like we're a book club or we're a film club.
Yeah,
So
this has been a lot of fun.
And
Well,
let
OAC Film Club.
There's it looks like there's only like 2 or 3. Oh no, the viewership just went back up to 7. For a second there was only like 4 or 5 people, which I know 3 of it is us.
we don't.
So.
Yeah, we have no idea. Sometimes we have thousands of people watching Facebook Lives, and sometimes it's just a few people. A lot of people catch them later. It's 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. Everybody's gone to bed, So I will get numbers tomorrow, and we'll get a sense of how many people checked it out. But we have no idea how many folks watched it for a long period of time. Anyway, so let's go for another 8 minutes, and then we can see if we want to do it again. We can see if we want to continue on another night.
Sure.
I don't know. This is fun.
I think that's something
Yeah.
we should also leave up to the audience. See if this is
Yeah,
something that
we
they
can
also
ask.
want to
We
see.
can ask the community. More of Phil and Ryan. We'll
Oh,
ask.
geez.
More.
It's just how I can't control it all thing. It's like I have no control over what I do. It's all funny a bit. It's like I have no control what I do. It's like I can't control what I'm doing.
Oh, look.
Yep.
Right, look.
Now look, that is the big version which model actually go inside.
Did many relatives stay for long after the funeral? Did they
Well,
stay
I saw
for
an uncle I've never seen before.
Really? Where did he come from?
Butlins.
Oh, right. And how do you feel?
Very upset.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it?
See, it's like I'm very upset, and then just straight face. Like this kid's feeling so much, even if it doesn't seem it.
Well, none of us want to really talk about our feelings on command, do we?
No, yeah,
That's
You
a
know,
good point.
especially with a camera.
yeah. Want to be comfortable, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
want to be comfortable.
For a second, I was like, at first I wasn't understanding this kid, but I was like, you know what? Wait a sec, there's cameras around too.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to talk about everything to a camera.
With random people behind the cameras, not like
Yeah.
regular school people, right?
yeah. And here we
It looks
are
like
watching-
21,000 random people.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and I had second thoughts about showing this to you, even as a mom, exposing a child in this vulnerable state. I was conflicted, but we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with the OAC, and I thought, well, we're in the business of being real about things, so I thought we'd take the plunge. Let's push on.
It's a Lego model of Yoda.
Yeah, they must have a great deal.
Yeah.
Ladies, stop pushing.
I wonder if a better use of her time was seemed to be having a good time just looking at the Star Wars stuff and having a chat rather than him being quizzed. I don't
Of
know,
course. Oh,
you know?
it's in a comfortable space, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's clearly a good friendship there.
But I can also imagine that the producers were trying to push for that emotion. I'm not sure if it's just her.
Yeah.
Mm. Yes, some more Phil and Ryan from Patty.
Honestly,
Let's
You
go.
got it.
just like they do in the police. They try so you don't know who's speaking, sort of.
Please tell me there's air holes in this thing. Please.
Really clever.
Oh yeah.
Because nobody can see.
That's what I was worried about.
I mean,
I can't imagine being like buried alive or something. Though I remember when I was younger, I used to like hide in cupboards for hours and just wait for my parents to find me. And
Same, but
sometimes
they're
I do that in stores and stuff. And it's like I thought I was
I loved
playing a
hiding.
game, and my parents were like, "We almost lost you in the middle of the mall."
I know, I was the same.
Oh my lord.
because of the damn buses and the
Oh,
traffic. Oh,
Oh,
and guess what? On the funeral, the weather just rain. But when
Yeah.
the funeral actually started, the sun came out. When the funeral finished, it stopped again. I feel like killing myself. So I feel like committing suicide with all the nasty things I've
yeah,
done.
see, he's going through so much.
All the bad,
It's
nasty.
incredible how he's like finally sort of letting himself ramble, talk about and express all these feelings that are going, and all these thoughts are going through his head when he's in an enclosed, dark space that there's not that sensory overload, and he's just able to focus on the feelings that are happening. You know?
it's
Yeah.
even more incredible that he knew to go into that enclosed.
Well, yeah,
That's
I
self
feel
amazing.
that.
Brave
Yeah, I feel
guy,
that.
eh?
Yeah,
Brave
yeah.
kid. Brave
Wow.
kid. Yeah.
The world needs more Philip. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
Hurting people, upsetting people, making them feel angry, them needing to talk to me and saying, what's going on here? You need to calm down now. And I start getting angry. Why should I calm down? Why should I do what you say? Get out my way. Go away. I start being aggressive.
Yeah, I
That was
guess
a
that's a
great
good place.
question.
We're like halfway through.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
20 minutes in.
I'm
So,
Phil, did you have anything to say?
Yeah,
yeah.
I did actually.
What are you thinking, Phil?
I just caught on to me. I didn't catch on to this the first time. The phrase "get out of my room." Anyone else getting the vibe that her room is like her private safe space?
Hmm.
That it's like, this is my space. Don't you start questioning me in my space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of the same. I retreat to my room, especially to my bed, whenever I need that sense of security under the covers. I kind of retreat there. That's like my downtime place. It's like,
So it's sacred. No one should interfere with.
like I'm okay with people coming into my room to chat with me, but like, not when I'm in it. Not when I need to be alone.
Yeah. I also I want to that part where she was saying, "Why should I have to do the thing you want me to do?
Oh
I want
man,
to do this." And
good
I think
question though.
I think I experienced that a lot as a kid, asking that question and feeling the frustration that came from it, because I think it's a part of it's like, as a kid, sort of feeling the injustice of going, I'm feeling so much and I feel like nobody understands me. And now you're asking me to do something that I've thought I expressed I didn't want, but I still have to do whatever thing. And that's, just this feeling of being not sort of respected or understood. I think that adds to the frustration. I don't think autism is an inherently frustrating thing, right? It's the sort of inability then to, the barriers that society enacts, right? In terms of how the way that people who are not neurotypical want to interact with the world, it just doesn't connect. And then it becomes very frustrating and it becomes very angering. And when you're not taught or given opportunity to let those outlets out, like having a safe space in your room, right? Or having, support from parents and therapists, it can become very angering, very frustrating. So it's important to always be figuring out how do I not make this behavior go down, right? I don't know, for parents, I've been parented, I've never been a parent, but for parents out there watching, ask, instead of how can I get this kid to stop crying or stop shouting, say, how can I make this easier for them? And I think most of the parents, if you have a kid with autism, you're already thinking that because you've already found how beautiful autistic children are and autistic people are. And it's hopefully opening up to you that sort of compassion. But that's exactly what the first question needs to be asked in these situations, I think.
And I just want to mention one more thing. Going back a little bit in the video when that 18-year-old, I forget his name, was walking, he was right. He is an adult. He's not being treated as an adult, which is such a tough thing. Like, I get both sides. You feel like you need to supervise him, but I get the need for independence as well.
Needing his space.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're all human. In fact, if you need it, I probably need it too.
Yeah.
Please, this is just a message for everyone in the audience. If you have an autistic adult, please try to treat them as an adult.
For sure. And when they, and you know what, and when they need your help, they'll ask for it because they know that that you respect them for who they are, and it's not this sort of battle of sort of feeling isolated and all your life, and then having to go into the real world and then being like, well, I don't want to ask my parents for help because for 18 years I felt like I wasn't getting the right help or whatever, right? It's every parent wants to have a good relationship with their kid, and I can even say myself, for somebody who went through those frustrations as a kid, I have the best relationship I've ever had with my parents. And I think and it comes with sort of having that mutual respect. And even for somebody who gets frustrated easily and has gone through these life experiences, it's something that can be learned, but it just requires mutual respect. You can't force somebody to respect you and be not frustrated at their situation, right? You can't force that.
You have to.
I 100% agree.
Respect is earned, not forced. Yeah. That's for sure. It's
the relationship I have with my parents is amazing because there is that mutual give and take. Yeah. I can tell that they're considering my feelings when they're making choices, and that makes me respect them just a whole lot more.
It's a tricky thing because we moms and dads, we're hardwired to protect
I
their
know.
children.
Ugh.
So
Yeah,
when I see
know.
that young guy being upset because the bus has changed, it has a new number, he's frustrated, and then he starts swearing at people, and and I think, whoa, somebody could assault him. So a police officer could come and intervene and hurt him when he's in that state. It
Which
was
what happens a lot of the time.
yeah, when it wasn't all that extreme. So that desire to hover and give
I get
a
it.
person space when he is a man, he is a young man.
Mhm.
It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Guys,
My pacing. Sorry, go
No,
ahead. Go
please.
ahead. I was just say I pace a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I've had some workplaces that have been very accommodating of that, but there's so many facets of autism that could get in the way, but at the end of the day, they make me the beautiful, intelligent person I am. Think I'm very, very competent at what I do. And there's no reason to not inspire confidence, self-love, and respect, both inwards and outwards, in any child, no matter autistic or not. And the OAC is just filled with so many amazing parents that I'm preaching to the choir right now, right? But from look at me and Philip. We're both autistic children. We're both kids who, when we were children, we threw stuff. We were angry. We were not. Our parents were like figuring out, what the heck do I do with this kid? This is insane, right? And we are where we are today. Where, I'm in law school. You're doing data at university. Like we're both, off getting jobs and whatnot. It's not autism isn't the end of the world. Like really, really isn't. It's completely manageable and something to be celebrated, but also respected. And yeah, right, because something to be not to be brought down, but it is something to be respected and actually taken with as it is, and how it affects the individual person, not by the stereotypes that people think autism is, right?
Well, thanks, fellas.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for giving us this platform.
And it was fun.
This was really great for us.
And I knew I was throwing some heavy duty stuff your way. I wasn't sure how it would go, to be honest. I thought, wasn't sure. It's some hot stuff. But our page is full of hot topics, right? It's full of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we go there on the page.
We do.
I think it would be nice to continue to watch the rest of this film. We can certainly take a poll, or we can just go ahead and do it. It's up to other people if they want to participate or not.
I think we're all down.
Okay, so let's just do a part 2. Let's do it.
Let's do it in November, sometime in November.
Yeah. I'll make note of where we left off, and maybe we can talk a little bit more too about your thoughts on therapy, about your thoughts on interventions. It should be noted that they don't do ABA in England, as far as I know. There's no ABA in this school. And things like that. We can touch on a few other things, like these issues that the OAC grapples with all the time. But today was just about hearing from you, getting your reflections and thoughts. And I thank you so much. It's not an easy thing to do that, especially when people are watching.
It's not easy to start, but once you start talking, it's easy to continue.
Yeah. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you, OAC.
If anybody has any topics we want to cover next time, put them in the comments, then we can just look at them and say, okay, next time we'll make sure to cover this as well. So.
Absolutely.
We're here for you all as well.
And we can invite people, and you can kick me off and have somebody else moderate, or whatever you want to do.
You're a great moderator.
That's not happening.
Whatever you want to do. All right. Good night, fellas. Thank you so much. Thank you, OAC.
Good night,
everyone.
Keep
up the fight. Yeah? Keep up the fight.
Let's do it.
Together.
Let's go.
All right. Good night.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.